So today I'm going to start with I'm going to talk about stanza 4 of Trust from Trust and Awakening, and I'll start by reading the stanza and then go into a little bit of Teisho or Dharma talk about it, and then I'll lead a guided meditation that relates to the stanza. So again, stanza 4, vast, boundless space, perfect absence. Preserve preferences, cloak the wisdom eye. So this first line, vast, boundless space, that really evokes what we're making contact with. The vastness is really the chief characteristic when people make contact with the absolute. It's one of the main qualities that they first encounter and that stays consistent in their experience. So just a vast openness of space. And the boundlessness is important because in most aspects of life, there are boundaries to a topic. There can be boundaries based on our concepts, on our perception. And so this line is making clear that this vast space has no boundaries, has no limits. It simply goes on forever. And that's one of the qualities of the unconditioned, what we call in Zen Buddhism the absolute, that it's vast and boundless. So it's always in existence, it's everywhere, all the time. The second line, perfect absence. So absence is a word I used instead of the traditional Buddhist word of emptiness. I think that because emptiness also can point to a kind of psychological or egoic deficiency, it's a better term to use, absence. And the absence is not a nothing. It's a nothing, but the felt sense is it's a nothingness where something is here. So it's not completely nothing. And one of the ways to think about it, or I've talked about it in the past, is it's like if you have a bookcase in your home and you remove one of the books from the bookcase, there's a space there that we can agree is empty or absent, and yet there can be an energetic felt sense of that very same space. Something belongs here. Something is here. It's just not here right now somehow. So that's the perfect absence. And perfect meaning that from beginning to end, again, there's no condition. It's not subject to birth, decay, or death. It's always in existence. It always has been in existence, and it always will be in existence. And it's perfect in that when we make contact with this absence, there's nothing more needed. We feel complete and whole. Even though there's this sense of absence, there's still a completeness that we can feel that's deeply satisfying to us. The third line, preserve preferences. Our preferences are in part what maintain our sense of self, our separation and individuation. Because I know that I like that bush and I don't like that tree, that helps reinforce who I am. Most people move through life with a kind of inner narration, commenting upon what they encounter and who they encounter in life. And this inner narration of likes and dislikes, of preferences, is what keeps that sense of self in operation. So as long as we preserve the preferences, as long as we maintain our likes and dislikes, and I don't mean that we don't have preferences in terms of beverages we drink or foods we eat. We certainly can have preferences there. What I'm talking about is preferences in terms of judging, that we're judging others, we're judging the world to maintain a relationship with a sense of self. So it's letting go, putting down that preference, that way of preferencing that keeps me a me based on these concepts. So when we preserve the preferences, that's when the last line says we cloak the wisdom eye. The wisdom eye in Theravadan Buddhism, which is called the Dharma eye, in the Zen tradition, is what's used for inner sight. When we are seeing qualities of our meditation, when we're seeing aspects of what's being taught, when we see that within our inner experience, that's the function of the wisdom eye. And the wisdom eye is important both for inner vision and just to say we can have all the senses can be at hand in our inner world, in our inner landscape. So we can have a sense of touch, taste, smell, hearing, and sight with our inner experience. And so what the wisdom eye is doing is helping us develop that inner sight. And the wisdom eye also supports deeper intuitive knowing. Much of what we learn in our meditation practice, much of what's revealed is revealed through our inner intuitive understanding or knowing. And this is a knowing that's non-conceptual. So it's not an idea. We're not doing that kind of comparison that humans do. This reminds me of that, so I understand it better. This is knowing through direct contact. I have a glass of water here next on my desk, and I can look at it. And if I say, what is this? Well, I can have lots of conceptual answers. It's clear, it appears to be liquid, probably wet. But if I really want to know what it is, I taste it. I have direct contact. Now I know what wet and water are without having to turn to a concept. I have a direct experience. So this is what we're looking for, what we're cultivating in a meditation practice is our direct experience, our direct knowing, our knowing without concept, our knowing without a sense of self. This is what lets us make contact and really have a kind of authentic knowing, because we're not projecting a self, we're not projecting a worldview onto whatever we're making contact with. So the knowing is going to be deeper in that regard.